Hello, everybody. It's Mary Lynn Harris of Hard at Work, and we're with a podcast series of creating an impactful legacy. And my guest today is Joey. I'm really happy to meet Joey. We had a nice conversation a while ago, and so we're going to catch up and keep going. So
Awesome.
thank you, Joey. Welcome.
Yeah, Marilyn, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. I love your background. It's great. It's like
Yeah,
you're in the garage.
yeah, it's definitely got its own flair. I've had people ask me if it's real, so then I would just turn on the barber pole so they could see that spinning and the like. And so far, like, yeah, they're pretty impressed by it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. So tell me a little bit, Joey, about how you got started doing what you're doing. And I know you're doing some marketing and other experience stuff. So why don't you just share whatever you want to share about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I got into this line of business. I think that's kind of like what I was born to do, right? I've been a creative guy since I was raised in Philly, and I got super fortunate by getting accepted into a university down in Philadelphia for advertising, School of the Art Institute of Philadelphia, which unfortunately is no longer around. But a lot of the guys that were there were not your traditional professors where they just barked out a lot of stuff and then expected you to go figure it out. These were hands-on guys. I would go as far as say they were probably adjunct,
Mhm.
meaning like they would do work in the field full time and then teach at night at the university. So you got hands-on training on
Right,
how things
right.
got done. But when I graduated, Photoshop 1.5 was just coming out, so it kind of puts a little date on me. But with that said, so was the internet,
Right.
and the internet for like a commercial perspective. And when I witnessed it back in the 90s, I was deathly afraid of it because I
Mm,
thought that's going to change everything. And I don't know what made me think that. I just did. And what I started to do was just try to figure out code. There wasn't like books on it, and people weren't really teaching HTML at the universities.
yeah.
So with that, I took my nerdiness and did a lot of hard learning with code, but was able to figure out how stuff got built.
Hmm.
And along the way, the title experience designer just fell on me
Hmm.
because that's all I've been doing, right, for the longest time. And with all that said, you fast forward 20 years and I look back and think, wow, that was probably the greatest fear I ever had. It wasn't of dying, it was the internet was going to take over and I need to be in front of that thing, or be a
Yeah.
part of it somehow. And yeah, and then boom, here I am.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how what things stop us from moving forward sometimes. It's
Hmm.
like, the internet came and, um, oh, well, we can't advertise on the internet. Oh my God, where's it going? Who's going to see it? And all that stuff. So that's where I was at the beginning when the internet was launched. I was actually selling advertising on the internet.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
So when I first got wind of how the internet would work, and so many of my colleagues would say to me, "Wow, you could see what we could do. Wow, like but yet they were still kind of practicing. So even though a couple of us were brought on board, they weren't quite ready for us. But when they were, we just said, just call us and we'll come back, kind of
Hmm.
thing. But yeah, like you say, it's sort of like even the people we just went out and talked to, like, oh, well, what is that? Who's going to see us?
Hmm.
Because we were trying to promote the local city that I was in at the time. So anyway, it's interesting, yeah, how life, when we look back at our life and where we've been and what we've been doing. So I think it's very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So what are some of the greatest challenges you find that your clients or you have run into besides the internet?
Well, funny because I would say the biggest challenge that faced, and it depends on the business type, but it's talent and content. Talent from a perspective of like who's going to get it done. And
Yeah,
I think with COVID, if you're aware, or as my niece says, woke, you can see that you don't have to have your team necessarily in your same room.
hmm,
It can now, and it's been that way for the longest time. Like, back in like early 2000s, I
yeah,
was, traveling Europe and I had my laptop, and as long as I could get to the internet, I could
yeah,
bang out some rich emails, make a couple $100 and extend my trip.
yeah,
That was it. And while it was mainstream, well, it was understream back then, I don't think people were comfortable with the fact of having remote teams, but we've been a remote forever.
Yeah,
Offshore teams and all that, that's nothing new. But I think what happened with a lot of companies is that they became so butts and seats mentality that you had to be in the office so I could see you working,
right,
which again speaks to the volume of I don't trust you that you're not
right.
working, right?
Yeah,
And now, like, yeah, you were forced to, and a lot of companies saw an increase in productivity despite them still wanting people to come back to the office. So again,
right.
that one challenge has been with talent, and then the other challenge has been with just being aware of what is going on in the world.
Hmm.
I think that again, a lot of companies are not focusing on where they could capitalize a lot of their opportunities. The way of what it was in 2019, that's not going to happen,
Yeah,
right? You're
because
not, yeah, you're not going back. Like even meetings in person, while we want to do that, where, like
yeah,
you could just hop on a Zoom call, do it so much quicker, not worry about traffic, not worry about delays, not worry about getting sick, right?
yeah,
Like all that stuff. So yeah, that's one of the, again, those are the two things that I see with companies that their biggest challenges.
yeah. And I think too, like you were saying in 2019, is so many companies still stuck there because they were in control. They are in control of everything, of the employees, what they could do, what they can't do. And the COVID kind of brought into play something about, okay, we're not doing that anymore. The employees are saying, we're not doing what you, it's not that they don't want to do what the employer wants, but they're just saying, we don't want to go back to the workplace. Why can't we stay at home and be more productive? Or why don't we, whatever. And I think the biggest challenge is that people, especially in the hospitality sector, they're still in that mind frame of we're paying minimum wage, even though we can't afford to come to work for you anymore, because we have all the external costs to living, right? So I think the biggest challenge is getting the employers to have a flip their switch, if you will, to say, okay, we have a great team. How can we best work together rather than, oh, well, like you were saying earlier, that they don't trust them or they don't feel that they can rely on them if they're not in the office.
Yeah, exactly. And also we should point out that there are some industries that can totally be remote.
Right.
Like me being a nerd, yeah, I can work anywhere. I've worked
Yeah.
anywhere. Half the trips I've taken with the wife, my better half, uh, we only go to these places where the internet was available. And
Right.
this is like because I've been married for God. When did I met Lisa in 2000?
Yeah.
And so back then, when we would take trips to Europe, not every villa or place you went to had the internet, right?
Right.
Or even a wireless connection. Like
Yeah.
so that was it. But nowadays, obviously, you run around with your hotspot, you're good to go on your phone. But yeah, but when I hear things like today, Delta Airlines stating that if you are unvaccinated and you're working with the people, your premium for insurance is going to go up because you're a bigger liability
Hmm.
than others.
Hmm.
And yeah, like they're really starting to paint people into corners to like try to get vaccinated because yeah, that's the only way you will go back to some sort of normalcy.
Right.
Because industries like the hotel industry and all that, yeah, they were destroyed. Universities were devastated because online you can learn online,
Yeah.
and universities couldn't pivot. But online education has been around for like 20 years. So like,
Yeah.
why are you now just realizing that you could teach online, right? So yeah, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of old mentality, a lot of like stubborn a way to get things done, and yeah, those people literally got like knocked out
Right.
by COVID, and now you see like this kind of like playing field of where people who embrace the tech sooner and embrace like the work from home and the policies that are not really mainstream as they're becoming now, winning,
Mhm.
while the other companies are still trying to restructure to figure out how do we get health insurance to work for people who work from home,
Mhm.
and all the other things that are associated with that.
Right. Right. Well, I think it's all workable, but like you say, it's the old way of doing business that needs to flip because, like you're saying, so many of us could just work at home.
Mhm.
Okay, there's certain industries you can't, I agree. But there's also the mentality, well, if you're working at home, I should pay you less. Like,
Wait,
really?
and that's amazing. Yeah, because I've heard people say that, and I think you know what will happen? Those people will go.
Yeah,
They'll go. Why? Because I could go someplace else that'll pay me my value
yeah,
and what I'm worth. And the fact that I'm working from home means I'm actually putting more hours into the job,
right,
right?
right.
And because I wrote a paper with this woman Evgenia from Greece, which I met online.
Yeah,
Uh, Interesting way of doing it through a conference, but it was all online. And what we found was that uh, when you worked in the office, let's say you go in, you come home. When you come home, what do you do about an hour after you get home? You probably check email. You probably want to
yeah,
get ahead for your next part of your day,
right,
and you had about an hour and a half buffer. At least that's what like our research came back with.
yeah,
But now, when do you shut off?
yeah,
Right? My clock is no longer EST. It's now like global. So when
right,
I look at the clock, I'm thinking, all right, I have teams in Singapore, I have teams in Belarus and Bruges, and I have to think of when are these guys awake, and
right.
are they going to need me? So now my time of waking up is like I'm like crazy, right? Like I'll be up until like 1 in the morning, go to bed, wake up around 7 again, take another call, go back to bed for a little bit, try to catch up some more time. So it's like this back and forth of
Yeah,
like different schedules because that's what's happening now, and that's actually a drawback because I don't think a lot of people can, you don't really get to relax because you're used to like a kind of 9 to 5, but yeah, that's
yeah.
gone.
I guess that's when they talk about mental health challenges, right? Because you're not getting enough sleep. So,
Yes,
if you can't get enough sleep, you become more anxious and stressed out
right.
just because of that factor, right?
Yeah, and another point to make with mental health is that overnight we stop seeing each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I actually just recently started shaking hands again with people. So
Yeah,
it was like a year of not shaking hands, not giving a hug. And even then, so for example, if you were like going out with like, my wife and we have another couple we'll go hang
yeah,
out with, normally the husband or the man or the woman would say, oh, hey, how you doing? Kiss on the cheek type thing.
yeah,
That doesn't happen anymore.
yeah.
That now it's just like a wave to the woman and a handshake to the guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is really, it's very telling. But then you get into how people who are like isolated, like people who have smaller apartments, and why they wanted to go back to the office is because they're cabin fever.
right, right,
Where I have like this huge house out here in Jersey, and there's like nobody around, so I could go outside and not fear of seeing anyone.
right.
So yeah, so I don't have the cabin fever, so yeah, I get to walk out and go do my thing. But for people who live in like when I lived in Queens in Woodside, yeah, it was totally condensed. Everybody was on top of each other, so to go outside was scary, but to stay inside was driving you crazy. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that COVID actually hurt the people with, but it's trying to find that
Yeah,
balance of
yeah.
how do you get it to work, and everybody can find that balance. It's just I think it becomes quite particular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what has most affected you in your business? Is just staying in touch with people, or what's your biggest challenge?
Well, so we in the beginning it was really bad, like anything else, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll add to it that I went through September 11th with a small business, and that was a pretty hard hit. We were right at
Yeah.
Prince Street. There was a lot of strife there, and then the housing market crisis was another big hit. But those two episodes in my life, I ran for the hills.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this time I did. And even though we started out 2020 losing about two-thirds of our business,
Yeah.
I I quadrupled down on network.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that in a variety of ways. I hired people to help me manage my LinkedIn account. I started reaching out to people I haven't spoken to in a long time.
Right.
And what I did was I specifically targeted friends of mine that I know don't do what I do,
Right.
and I wanted to help them any way I could.
Mm-hmm.
Being a nerd, right? Like, what
Yeah.
is it that my nerdiness can give to you and your, what you're going through? And it was amazing. Like people, I was able to help a lot of guys, whether it was mentoring, like the students and those from the universities where, how do I get a job now?
Yeah.
I'm so used to like bringing my portfolio, meeting in person, and now I'm not. I'm like, what's the difference? I said, just turn on your camera.
Yeah.
That's all. Make sure you look good. Make sure you got all your points ready. Look into the camera and go.
Yeah.
And don't look like blurry. So like spend a couple of bucks to get the real webcam, not the one that Apple or whatever device you have comes with, because they're not going to be good. And obviously my background being the way it is, it's all lit a certain way. And I said, yeah, you got to make it look good. I think a green screen will only get you so far, and then you want to be able to really put some polish on that. And then like again, for us though, we didn't have too many challenges after that. However, the challenge that I see now is being able to afford the talent.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the designers are like 2 times their rate they used to be.
Right.
And why? Because it's hard to find talent. It's
Mhm.
like insane. I mean, finding talent is about just as hard as coming up with content. I think it's like the same kind of battle people are going through. And I've been opening my doors to like pretty much anyone that I can talk to from a talent perspective, get an
Right.
idea what they could do, and then from there, see if we can work out a deal.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think we all have to just do more reaching out across the table and saying, how can I support you? And I guess from a woman's perspective, when I've done that, even with people I know, they go, oh, well, I don't need your help. Or I'm too proud to accept help. And so I think that's the biggest challenge too. As small business owners, we have to just be willing to collaborate and stuff. It's just like I belong on Lineable, and it's we're all same zip code, so we all know who each other is. And it's sort of like saying, well, how do you reach across the table and work with your other business owners that are in the same town as you? Like, how, do you do any collaboration? Oh, yeah, I'm open to collaboration. Okay, so what have you done? Oh, nothing. Or, like we were saying, or I tried that once, it didn't work. So I think as a small business owner, perhaps we have bigger problems than some of the big guys, because they already have the money. They can just go hire out. They don't have to worry about, reaching across the table. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I haven't done a lot of work locally here in Edison, New Jersey.
Mhm.
And it's not that I wouldn't, I just haven't, and the opportunity hasn't presented itself.
Right.
And part of that also is because I have so many other opportunities coming to me that I
Mhm.
don't have to look locally to find
Right.
opportunity. But going back to what I said earlier about helping people, I helped I work with just a variety of different people, like different businesses and like people that you make friends with, right? Like I made friends with the guys at the garage, I made friends with the guys at the restaurants,
Yeah.
and when this all hit, I told them, listen, dude, I'm mad nerdy, so if you got a challenge, let me know. And with the for example, with the garage, how do you get people to come into the garage when there's a mandate by the government
Right.
that you can't have people in? And
Right.
it was a panic. And some of these guys at the garage were like, they mentored me with like engines and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, listen, I know that's your world, but my world is this digital stuff.
Yeah.
So what I helped them with was just setting up as simple as Google Calendar.
Right.
Google Calendar will tell me how many people are coming into my shop. They
Yeah.
can book their time, and it's great. And people who were fearful, because you had two different mentalities. You had people who didn't care about COVID and
Yeah.
had all the phrases, and then you had the people who did care about it and that were scared about doing stuff. But
Yeah.
business had to go forward. So by
Right.
having it on the calendar, now it works for everybody, because now I know when I'm going to be there.
Right.
Right. And then it's sort of like magically evolved, where then the customer started sending video clips of their cars not working. So now if the mechanic hears the sound, they can say, oh, maybe it's a bad battery, or maybe it's a starter, or you got a chatty transmission, whatever. You could hear all that. And now
Right.
the mechanic is prepared for when the problem comes, that we might be able to pre-order the part for you.
Right.
Right. And then it's waiting. So now it speeds up your time of getting things done. And business actually got better
Right.
because we use technology as something as simple as Google Calendar
Right.
to help get things
Yeah.
going. So yeah, there was a lot. And then there was also another client of mine. He had a gym with trainers, physical trainers,
Yeah.
and you're not going around anybody huffing and puffing with COVID in 2020, right? So they were going to go buy the mirror, and I told them that's crazy. Like, you're going to spend how many thousands of dollars to have it installed for what? And I said, dude, just turn on your phone, do FaceTime.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Put the phone on the floor. I don't know, put it
Yeah.
somewhere, prop it up so that the person can see your form, and then go. And then all of a sudden, they started doing online yoga classes and
Yeah.
online, workout regimens. And obviously, Peloton and all that were like, hey, we sell the bike, but we could give you all these other perks. Why? Because yeah, there's a huge market for it, and people wanted that online community. So
Right.
a whole lot has actually come from COVID,
Right.
but it's come from people who have embraced the fact that, yeah, you're going to have to do it through the camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. If you could do it through there, and I don't care what the business is, outside of like things where, like again, like hospitality,
Mm-hmm.
where you're going there because you're being treated a certain way, which again, I know that hasn't been fully thought out, but it's gotten better. You can have cupcakes delivered to your house. You can have the food delivered to your house. You may not be able to
Right.
go to the place, but yeah, you can have the food brought in. And again, the only other challenge is, going to like a lavish hotel.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Having that hasn't been fully figured out. I mean, I know they got things in place, but it's still a challenge for people who don't want to get vaccinated to go to these places. So
Yeah. 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 It's always a challenge. Like you said, we are just talking about when we started this conversation, is that the mindset of people and who are stuck where and whatever. So yeah. So tell us a little bit about your services and what you do.
Sure.
How you
So,
do.
yeah. So my business is pretty straightforward. We do. The name of the company is Dead Company. It's an acronym for Digital Experience Design. It was too much of a mouthful, so somebody had said Dead, and I thought, oh, that's amazing. And then Dead Company was available, the domain, so we got Dead.company. And what we do is we build experiences. We
Mhm.
help iron out experiences for enterprise applications. So, for example, companies will come to us to help research why their product isn't effective for their customer base. So,
Mhm.
let's say, Facebook's a really easy one, right? You go to use
Yeah.
Facebook, and there might be a particular feature that most of the customers can't find.
Right.
Like, for example, if you want to unfollow someone, you can't unfollow them on your phone from their page, from like their profile page. You
Right.
actually have to go to their post, click on their post that's in your feed, and then
Yeah.
unfollow, which
Yeah.
I've always found that to be super dumb. Like,
Yeah.
put it where, the main part of the
Yeah.
page is. Why do I would never think to look there. But so it's stuff like that where my company would go and help map that out, figure out, hey, there's a problem. We have research to back up that challenge, and then from there provide the experience corrected, which would usually be like a wireframe.
Yeah.
Uh, and then other companies where we've been doing really well has been with building design systems. And
Okay.
design systems are where you have reusable components like, let's say, for example, you have a button, and every button on the regular, like we just see the button, it's blue, but when you move the mouse over it, it turns to a dark blue. So
Mhm.
we would develop an entire system focusing on like buttons and font sizes and all that are ADA compliant, which make it easier for people with certain vision or dexterity challenges to
Right.
use, but also that you have a uniform consistency throughout your product. So
Mhm.
everybody that uses, every designer that adds to the product, they're pulling components that are already existing, so it's all consistent.
Mhm.
So let's say, for example, we no longer like the color blue, we want to change it to, I don't know, purple. You could do that in one place, and every designer's layout would update and all the developers' sheets would update. So
Yeah.
it makes it much easier to keep it consistent versus what some guys do, which is a lot of one-off stuff, and you'll spend months trying to track down all those problems. So that's pretty much what we do.
Okay. So you solve people's digital problems and give them an experience of success.
Yes. Yep.
That's great. That's great. Well, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share before we close up?
I would say, I guess from my generation, the Gen Xers, the one
Yeah.
thing that I've learned from from us struggling with COVID, the whole new reality.
Right.
My big advice to them would be to start asking for help.
Yep.
Ask people to do the stuff you don't do. And me being a great poster child for that has been I never had any real marketing.
Hmm.
Everything was word of mouth, which I know word of mouth has a lot of weight in the world.
Right.
But in order to find, especially with yourself, right? I would have never met you had I not hired a marketing company to help me find people that I
Mm.
align with from a podcast perspective, like what we talk
Right.
about that could be uniformed. And
Right.
it's been amazing to be able to reach out to people and various walks of life,
Hmm.
political differences, religious differences, it doesn't matter. Like if we all have the same common goal, which is to move society
Right.
forward. And what a better way to do it by looking to talk to people about how they get their stuff done. So yeah, definitely parting words would be in this world that's happening around us.
Yeah.
If you don't know how something gets done, definitely ask for help. Find those people that can help you get what you need done.
Right. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I remember when I first I was looking for a VA and I found one, but unfortunately he wasn't able to do anything. So I said, I think we're gonna break up. So now I still need to go find a VA, but I have a source now I can do that. But like
Mm.
you were saying, is like if you don't ask for help, you're not gonna get it. So I appreciate your time, Joey, with me today, and I'm sure my audience will love to hear what you have to say about your generation and what we talked about. And I think it's so important that we just keep sharing and helping each other. So given with that, I'm going to close and just say, just be kind to each other because that's all we have. Okay, great. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, bye.